Welcome back to Willie's Web. My name is Willie Wyman-Pleasant, and I'm your host. So now we get to talk to this person. Both my guests are bigger than life, so I'm so nervous. I don't know why I'm nervous. But he's a Pulitzer Prize winner. Did I say that right? With more than 30 years of journalist specializing in government, politics, social policy. He worked at the Washington Post, the Boston Globe, the St. Louis Post, the St. Louis America. He's covered the nation's capital for dozens of years, reporting on the presidential campaign under Michael Dukakis, welfare reform, health policy. He was the Washington Post correspondent for South Asia. His freelance articles have appeared in Ebony Magazine, Essence, Boston Globe Magazine, and Howard University. He is also a supporting contributor for this book that we're going to talk about later on called Portraits of Purpose. It's a tribute to leadership. Let me introduce to you Kenneth Cooper. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited. I'm tongue-tied. I want to share just a little bit of you with the viewing audience, because I think, like I say, we see the book, we see the people, but we really don't know the people. And so I want to give them a little snapshot of who you are.
Okay.
So talk about who you are. How did you come to be who you are? And how did this Pulitzer Prize winning thing happen? I want to know that.
I grew up in Denver, Colorado. That surprises a lot of people on the East Coast, but yes, there are black folks in Denver, Colorado. about 12%, same as the country. I had the good fortune of being able to get out of some not very good de facto segregated schools, and was able to go to a private school in middle school that was integrating, and I'm one of its first black graduates of that school in Denver. And I left there to come to Boston for the first time, to go to boarding school at Phillips Academy in Andover, just up the road. And that's when I first got to know Boston. You know, Andover, back then, I think there was one black family in the whole town. And there was not a single black adult who worked on the campus, believe it or not even in the kitchen or groundskeeping. So we came to Roxbury whenever we could. I saw my first black play at the Elma Lewis School.
Oh, nice.
That opened my eyes because I didn't know such existed. And I went to college in St. Louis, intending to be a computer programmer or something like that. I could see that was happening way back then. But I decided it wasn't for me, so I switched my major to English. And one day, in reflection, I said, okay, I want to be a writer, but what's a writer who gets paid on a regular basis?
Yeah.
And the answer was a journalist. And the other reasons I became a journalist, more profoundly, was I came of age in college around the time Watergate happened, and I was really impressed with what Carl Bernstein and Bob Woodward did to force a president to resign, and I thought that being a journalist was a way to make social change. And I also was aware that the civil rights movement had gained force and steam with the media coverage of it. So I kind of thought if you told people what was really going on, that it would change minds.
Were you part of that? Part of the change of the writing? I understand you were a journalist. Did you ever protest and get involved heavily?
I was much too young for that.
Oh, okay.
I was much too young for that.
Okay.
And Denver was way removed from the action, which was mostly in the South. That's how I became a journalist. I started my career at the St. Louis American, which is the Bay State banner of St. Louis. Although at that time the St. Louis American had 4 African-American newspapers, if you believe it or not. Right. And worked from there to the Daily Newspaper, the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, then the Boston Globe for the first time in 1980.
Wow.
And that's when the Pulitzer happened. I was covering the Boston public schools, and one day the editors brought a group of us into the office and said they wanted to do a story about race in Boston. And the irony is, I tried to get out of it because I wasn't sure the Globe was going to tell the truth. They wanted me to write a piece about affirmative action in the faculties of the private colleges and universities around here. And I didn't think they wanted to tell the truth, so I kept making up excuses. And my boss took me out to lunch. I guess I can say this on the air. He looked at me and he kind of got frustrated with me. He said, "Look, I'm giving you Harvard and MIT on a platter." And I looked at him and said, "I'll do it." So yeah, it was a 13-part series. I was part of a team. We wrote about affirmative action in the major sectors of the Boston economy. That was 6 pieces. And then for the last 7 pieces, we went to 6 different cities around the country and compared Boston based on race. I went to Philadelphia and Miami. And then there was a concluding piece that's sort of what it all added up to.
Right.
And we said Boston was then, clearly, compared to the other cities, a difficult place to get a job and get promoted and prosper if you were black.
Yeah. I read a little bit of the article that you sent me, and I realized that it's almost a lot of stories that happen, especially in Boston, where there's a ceiling and people are allowed to, like this person that you did the you sent me the article on at Harvard.
Ephraim Isaac.
Yeah, he was able to, he was okay because he did what they needed to do. And when time for tenure comes, we can't keep you because we realize that once you become tenure, you're here.
Right.
And we can't get rid of you.
Right.
So we don't want that because now we can't dictate to you. And I think that's a lot of and did you find that in St. Louis? At St. Louis, the places that you were comparing to, that Boston was the worst?
We didn't, well, we sort of said that, yeah. And that, maybe a little too strong. I thought Miami had a lot of problems in our group. We went to Miami and Philadelphia, Chicago and Atlanta, Houston and San Francisco. We picked those 6 cities and divided them up among the 3 of us. And you know, we didn't look necessarily, we looked at different things in different places to make it fit in a newspaper. So in Philadelphia, I looked at, you know, the ability of people of color to go into neighborhoods that were like in Philadelphia, an Italian neighborhood. Right. And the NAACP was having Freedom Fund dinners at a big Italian restaurant, banquet hall, which was unimaginable in Boston in the early 1980s that would happen in North End or East Boston. And in Miami, we looked at economics, and it was kind of socioeconomics. It's kind of a mixed picture. Black Miamians were less educated and didn't have much in the way of jobs. Whereas in Boston, we were better educated and we had difficulty with jobs, which you could see that would lead to a lot of frustration.
Right.
I did the right thing, I got educated, now I can't get a job, a good job, I can't move ahead.
Right.
Whereas in Miami, they hadn't even got the good education. They hadn't got
so
the
they
foundation.
had an excuse, right?
They didn't have the foundation yet.
Right. Wow, that is. Now, do you find journalism changing from the time you wrote that article till just a quick? Do you find that journalism is changing, that people are able to say what they want to say?
Journalism has changed a lot because of the internet. So there are a lot of places where people can say what they want to say.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, because there's like a million voices all at the same time, and they don't have the same kind of platform that a mass medium like the Boston Globe did. The Boston Globe now, its circulation, I think, is in the 200,000s a day, whereas back then it was like 5,000 or 6,000, 100,000 a day.
Nice.
So that, you know, the problem with the internet, yeah, it's worldwide and all that, but the different platforms, many of them don't have the same kind of mass audiences that they did back then.
All
newspapers.
Right. Wow, that was quick. I'm only giving you a snippet of the people behind this great book that we're going to talk about. So we're going to go to our PSA, and we'll be right back. And I have both my guests sitting before me.